Hey everyone, so today I want to talk about additional dealer markup or ADM, specifically for Ford vehicles. Now, dealer markup is nothing new. It's been around for a long time. This specifically with Ford has impacted a lot of Ford Performance and SVT buyers for a very long time now, but the majority of car buyers are really starting to get a rude awakening to this. If you just tried to purchase a car in about the last year or so, you've probably seen some very large markups on vehicles, and it's not limited to a certain manufacturer. It's not limited to a certain type or model of car. It's virtually everything. Now, more recently, Ford has very publicly announced to their dealers that they want to crack down on this. They do not want dealers marking their vehicles up because of the image that it puts onto the brand. So they have very publicly said that they are going to start pulling allocations and taking other measures to stop dealers from marking up their vehicles. Now, this is a topic that people tend to be very opinionated on. You have some people on one end of the spectrum saying it's a free market, let the market decide the prices, dealers own the vehicles, they can charge whatever they want. And you have other people on the opposite side saying this is essentially price gouging. They are taking advantage of people because of the situation, and it should be illegal. Now, I think people on both sides of the argument have valid points, and it would be nice if we can come to some sort of middle ground on this, but I don't really think that that's going to happen. I think that the dealers are going to keep doing what they're doing until they are forced not to. So, where I think this has really gotten out of hand is primarily with the new pre-order system had. Now, normally when you would want to buy a car, you walk into a dealer, you either look at the cars on the lot or you want to order something, but you would sign a contract and you would know the price of the vehicle. And dealers that are marked up at the dealership already, you walk in, you see that little sticker next to the main window sticker with the markup price on it. People aren't happy about it, but at least you know what you're getting into and they are upfront about it. So, where this has really gotten problematic and a lot of people are getting very upset, and frankly, I don't blame them, is with the pre-orders. Now, Ford, within the last about year or so, I think it started with the Bronco, is allowing you to pre-order your vehicles, where you go onto the Ford website, instead of going into the dealership, you put down your information, you put in your credit card, you put a $100 deposit down, and you essentially have a spot in line to order a vehicle. This is what some other manufacturers have started doing, and people really like this way of ordering a car rather than the traditional way of going into a dealer. Where dealers are really becoming unethical and taking advantage of people is with these pre-orders. People think everything's fine. The dealer calls them, hi, your vehicle's in, it's ready for pickup, come on in, get it. And you go down to the dealership thinking everything's great, you're excited, your brand new shiny vehicle's in. Let's pick it up, let's sign the paperwork. And right at the last second, when you go to sign that paperwork, they throw an additional dealer markup on there. Where's this? This was never discussed. This was never disclosed. And dealers just say, well, take it or leave it. We're marking the cars up. If you don't like it, it's here. You can't have the vehicle transferred to another dealership. Take it or leave it. Now, this is Ford Motor Company. This is not like Ferrari, where people are buying cars for hundreds of thousands of dollars. They're essentially ultra luxury, cars that are for fashion or basically to make a statement. A lot of people buying these cars are just average people that make average money. They can't afford to necessarily pay a huge markup on a car. You're talking cars that are $40,000, $50,000. You throw a $10,000 markup on a car like that, and now it becomes out of people's realms. And people are getting very, very upset about this. There have been some very high-profile major incidents at dealers where people really get out of control and get really upset with their dealers. And I can't say I blame them for it. To do this at the last second and pull the rug out from underneath people, it's incredibly unethical, and I think it's a terrible thing for dealers to do. And this is not an isolated incident. This is happening all over the country. And I think this is where Ford, after seeing this go on for a little while, kind of stepped in, because there's agreements between dealers and the manufacturer about sort of a code of ethics and basically how Ford corporate wants to be represented by their dealers, because car enthusiasts kind of understand how the whole dealer manufacturer thing works. Dealers are a federally mandated thing where there has to be dealers, and that's why you can't necessarily buy directly from Ford. But the average car person doesn't realize that. They go into a dealer and see they got ripped off. They see, oh, Ford ripped me off. They don't necessarily realize that's not Ford doing it. That's the dealer specifically doing that. So Ford is getting upset that it's making them look really bad. And I think that they're absolutely right. It hurts the image of a car for everybody, an affordable vehicle that basically anybody can buy, and it makes them look really bad to the public. So I think the only way that this is going to get any better is Ford is going to have to stand their ground, and they're going to have to get tough and make an example out of some of these dealers. Now, Ford had an agreement when they started manufacturing the Ford GT in, I believe it was 2017, the Ford GT supercar, that anybody that Ford qualified to purchase that car had to agree and sign a piece of paper saying that they would not sell that car for 2 years. A couple people decided they wanted to test those waters, specifically the celebrity John Cena. That was probably the most high-profile case regarding someone selling a Ford GT early. And essentially, Ford threw their weight around as a billion-dollar company and said, okay, they took him to court and basically ran him into the ground. So any profits that he would have made were basically absorbed by, court costs, lawyer fees, and essentially they came to an agreement that they didn't say exactly what the figure would be, but he would donate a large amount of the money he made from the sale of that vehicle to a charity of Ford's choice. So it wasn't fully disclosed how it was handled, but basically Ford threw their weight around and basically made an example out of one person. And I'm sure that scared a lot of other people off that were looking to do that. Now, like I said, I think that's the only way the dealers are going to calm down from this. Ford needs to very selectively take a few dealers that are charging outrageous markups and taking advantage of people and say, okay, we're pulling all your allocations, that they pull as many allocations as they legally can, and say, all right, we're pulling all the allocations that you're getting, and any of the ones that you may still have, they're going to the back of the line. And do that to a handful of dealers, and you're basically going to put everybody on notice at that point. Now, before everybody gets all excited and thinks that that's what this is going to happen, I wouldn't put a lot of weight on this, because I think if Ford does do this, they're going to do this with certain vehicles that they really want to push. I specifically think they're going to do this with the F-150 Lightning that's going to be coming out. That's one they specifically mentioned in some of the articles, and they were doing this with the Mach-E as well. These are vehicles, because they're electric, I think they're really trying to push them. So those are the vehicles that I think that they're really going to get serious about. They see dealers marking them up. And things like Ford Performance vehicles, Shelby's Raptors, and maybe like Broncos and things like that, personally, I wouldn't hold your breath for Ford to get involved with that. Now, some people kind of got upset a while back because Ford's North America Communications Director kind of jumped in on a few vehicles that were marked up. I think it was about a year ago. There was a Mach-E at a dealer that had a big markup on it, and someone complained to that individual on their social media account, and he, within a few hours, had that dealer markup removed. And a lot of people were very upset. It's like, hey, wait, you can, people are saying you don't really have too much control over how your dealers price out their vehicles, but this guy can make a phone call and in a few hours, the markup is gone. But what about all these other vehicles? So a lot of people were kind of upset about that, understandably. Now, a lot of people also have the mentality, you know what? I'm just going to ride this out. Eventually things are going to get better. I'll just, my vehicle's in good shape. I'm going to ride this out as long as I can until prices come back down to a more normal level. Well, personally, and I really hope I'm wrong on this, I don't think things are going to get better anytime soon for several reasons. I think the supply chain issue is not necessarily going to get better anytime soon. I also think Ford has, and a lot of other car companies have seen how this situation is right now, and they're realizing if they don't produce as many cars, they can sell less cars for more profit instead of going back to how car dealerships used to be, where you go to a car dealership and they got hundreds of cars on a lot. So in order to kind of keep the cars moving, they have to offer tons of discounts and incentives to keep the cars moving. But now they don't have to do that. They can make less cars, more profitable. It's kind of almost a better situation for the manufacturers now. And I think that as this continues to go on, all those people that are kind of sitting in the background, just kind of watching car prices, that group of people is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's going to get to a point where even if the supply starts to kind of catch up a little bit, you're going to have so many people waiting in the background that once prices start to drop, a lot of those people are going to swoop in and push the prices back up again, because you're just going to have so many people that just get to a point where they just can't wait anymore. Something happens to the vehicle they have, they can't wait. So that's going to kind of keep this going, and all those people in the background are just going to keep pushing prices up when they just can't wait anymore. So that's why I kind of don't think this is really going to get better anytime in the near future, if it really ever does. But in the meantime, until Ford really does something about this, I think that the community, the Ford enthusiast and buyer community kind of really needs to come together to help each other out and try to combat this as best they can. First thing, and this is not always the easiest thing, is to stop buying from dealers that mark up. I know people sometimes are in a situation they can't wait, they're in a pinch, they need a car, something happened to the vehicle they have, they need a car right now, and there's nothing they can do. Sometimes it happens and it is what it is, but if you have the ability to, stop buying cars from dealers that mark up. The best thing you can do is hurt their bottom line, and that will basically force them to eliminate the markups or cut them back drastically. The community has also done things where they have listed, both on forums and some of the big automotive websites have listed all the dealers in all the states that do not charge a markup. So I think Jalopnik and Motor One had articles of no markup dealers. That specifically came out when the Broncos started to come out. And unfortunately, that list was kind of short. When you consider there's a lot of Ford dealers in this country, there was not a lot of vehicles, or not a lot of dealers rather, on that no markup list. So I know here in New Jersey, there's a lot of Ford dealerships, and there were 3 dealers on that no markup list here in New Jersey. There's probably 50 dealers in the state. So what I want to do for the community is basically, I just want to endorse one dealer that I purchase all my Fords from that is a no markup dealer. My family has purchased 7 vehicles from them, and we've never had a problem. They've always been good. They are a no markup dealer. That is their policy. They even advertise so on their television commercials. The only Ford I did not purchase from them was my 350R, only because they did not have an allocation. They tried to get me one. Unfortunately, they could not. Before I go any further, I want to be very clear here. I am not being paid to endorse this dealer. I do not work there. I have a friend that works there, but that is it. They are not giving me any sort of kickbacks or special discounts or ordering me a car special for me to endorse them. This is me doing my part to help out the Ford family, the Ford community, to get away from these dealers that mark up. So just like those dealers have the right to mark up vehicles anything they want to, I have the right to endorse a no markup dealer to basically hurt their sales so that they can calm down and stop hurting people that really don't have the money to purchase a car with an excessive markup on it. I buy all my Fords from Ditchman Flemington Ford on Route 202 in Flemington, New Jersey. They're basically central New Jersey. It's Flemington / Raritan Township. They have addresses on basically for both townships. Like I said, they are an MSRP or less dealer. They do not mark up, whether it's vehicles that you pre-order online or vehicles that are there in stock on the dealer floor. No markups. They state clearly on their television commercials that they do not mark up. I reached out to the salesperson there that I use, and I asked if they're doing anything as far as contracts, because I know some of the higher-ups at Ford had basically said, you know, in order to avoid getting taken advantage of, it's a good idea to get if you have a pre-order, get a contract ahead of time before you commit to which dealer that vehicle is going to. And he said, yeah, absolutely. He said, we can, if people want to if they're concerned about getting taken advantage of, we can write up a contract ahead of time. But he said, I don't foresee us changing our policy anytime soon. That's basically because the late owner of that dealership, Steve Califer, was an absolutely stand-up, fantastic owner of that dealership. He was a gentleman. He was a great businessman, and he was very well loved in the community here. He understood the concept that it's better to take care of a customer long-term because they're going to come back, they're going to buy more vehicles, they're going to refer friends and family here, and they're going to come back for service than trying to take advantage of somebody, make a quick buck, and we're just on to the next person. So I know the few times I had spoken to him, customer service was very, very big with him. So now I know listening to this, a lot of people are probably skeptical. Who's this guy on the internet just referring somebody to some random car dealership I've never heard of? Now I expect people to still do their due diligence and do their research into the dealership. Check them out on all their reviews. Check them out on DealerRater.com. They're a state winner like 8 years in a row for sales, for service and sales, for the way they treat their customers. And probably one of the biggest things that Mr. Califer was very proud of with that dealership was they had won Ford's President's Award over 20 times in a row. Now, that's basically Ford corporate saying that they are a top-notch dealer. And to win that award over 20 times in a row, I believe there's only a handful of dealerships in the entire country that have ever done that. So that's Ford corporate saying that this is a really good dealership. This is good customer service, and they basically treat people in a very ethical way that people should be treated. So I hope everyone has enjoyed the video. This is, like I said, this is me doing my part to help the Ford community out there to get away from these dealers, because a lot of people just feel like they have really no other recourse. People have been doing a lot of research on the internet, and there's not a lot of dealers out there that are still doing the right thing. They're just giving in to these high markups, and they feel that it is what it is. So, like I said, this is me trying to help the Ford community in the meantime. Try to find an MSRP dealer that I have used personally, and I have also sent a lot of people there for some specialty vehicles. I sent a bunch of people there for Raptors, and I have not had a single person say that they did the wrong thing where they tried to mark a vehicle up. Everyone that I've talked to has been happy, and they've thanked me for sending them there. Some had to drive kind of far to get there, but it was well worth not getting ripped off or taken advantage of. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.